Okay, in 7.3, we're going to look a little bit at the double angle and half angle formulas. We are not doing the product sum formulas. Okay, we're not doing the product sum. And once again, we're only looking at sine and cosine. Okay, so let's look at the double angle formulas first. Okay, so they're up here in the blue box at the top of page 590. We are not doing the tangent one, just sine and cosine. Hoping that will focus itself there. It's not going to. There it goes. Okay, so sine of 2x, okay, so I've doubled my angle here, okay, is the sine of x times the cosine of x, all doubled. Okay, the cosine of 2x, so my angle's doubled. This one, see how different this is? And it has 3 different forms, depending on what information you know. Okay, it could be the cosine value squared minus the sine value squared. Or let's say I want the cosine, I know the angle, I want the cosine of twice that angle. Like let's say my angle is 60 degrees and I want the cosine of 120. But I know the sine of the 60 degrees. I could take the sine of 60 degrees, square it, multiply it by 2, subtract that from 1. Or I can do this one. Okay, so 3 formulas there to choose from, and we'll practice those. Right, so let's look at example 1 where it says using the double angle formula for cosine. Okay. Okay, I have cosine is negative 2/3. Cosine of x is negative 2/3. And I want to find cosine of 2x and sine of 2x. And it tells me that it's in quadrant 2 because it helps me with my SIGNs to know if it's positive or negative. All right, so I'm going to use one of the double angle formulas for cosine. Okay, so considering all I'm given is cosine, then I'm not going to use either formula that requires that I know sine. I'm going to use this one. Okay, so that's why I'm using this formula here, because all I know is cosine. And I want you to see what they did here. So cosine of 2x is going to be my cosine of x squared, then I double that. So cosine squared, so negative 2/3 squared is going to be 4/9. Then when I multiply that by 2, remember that's 2 over 1. So only the numerator gets multiplied by 2, so that's 8/9. Then subtract 1 from it, and I get negative 1/9. I'm done. That's my answer. Okay. Now, what if I want sine? Well, I only have one formula. Okay. And I need sine to find sine 2x. I need to know what sine x is. All right. So I've got to find sine x. Okay. And so I use this here to find sine x. And the book does not tell you at all where this comes from because they're wanting you to remember one of your Pythagorean identities. Okay? And you're not going to. I mean, that's not talked about in this section. And so you're not really thinking, oh, I need to draw on something that we did at the very beginning of chapter 7. But they're wanting you to take your Pythagorean identity, and I told you this thing shows up all the time, and solve it for sine. So get the sine squared by itself by subtracting the cosine squared. Then I don't want it squared, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So sine x is the square root of 1 minus cosine squared x. And that's where they get this value that looks like they just pulled it out of the air. And it's right here magically in your textbook. Okay. So once you do that, then you can plug in your value for cosine, square it, subtract it from 1, and get your value for sine x. And once you have your value for sine x, you can use this value for sine x, this value for cosine x, plug them into here. Okay, so I would take sine x times cosine x times 2, and I get this. So it's a little more involved.